Hello. I'll go ahead and like three, two, one. All right, three, two, one. Hi, this is Christy Jedi Goddess, and I'm joined today with a very special guest, Steve Morger, who is the co-founder of the Lake Como Comic Art Festival and also an avid art collector, as I hear. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. Please tell me a little bit more about you and everything.
Um, I am going to be 65. I've been reading comics since I was about 5 years old. When
Aw.
I was a little kid, my mom said, I don't care what you read, read. And we had a little junk store that sold 5-cent comics, including X-Men #1 from way back in the day. Uh,
Okay, go mom.
so I always bought those. I'm a pack rat by heart, like many of us are.
Yeah.
So collected comics through the years, got up to about 30,000 and decided I needed more space. And that's when I started getting into collecting art. And luckily for the collection of art, it introduced me to a ton of artists. So I've got a lot of artist friends. That segued into me working with a friend of mine, a guy named Steve Wyatt, to put on some shows, including the Big Wow Comic Fest,
Yeah.
San Jose, which ended in, I believe, 2015.
Right.
Not by choice, but kind of got forced out there for other people that wanted the venue. During that time, I got to know the promoter of another show in Paris, the Paris Comic Expo, Arno, who is now, along with his partners at his comic shop Alt in Paris, is now my partner on Lake Como Comic Art Festival, uh, and we've gotten to be really good friends. So that's kind of the 2 cents version of my history, at
I
least.
love that.
Yeah.
I love, well, as being a super nerd, I completely can identify with these things. But for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about why the Lake Como Comic Art Festival is different, say, versus other conventions like San Diego.
San Diego is probably the polar opposite in many ways of the show. As I mentioned, both Arno and I had been involved in doing shows. His was the Paris Comic Expo. He also was forced out, not by choice, from a bigger entity that came in.
Right.
And we just got to be friends through the years. And both of us had pretty much said that, I mean, I think his show when he ended was about 17,000 people. Big Wow was a bit over 10,000. And both of those, you kind of hit the sweet spot where you really need to start bringing in staff. It can't really be a passion project anymore. It's got to be much more formalized, I guess is a word that fits. And so I'd always been having this idea because art is near and dear to me.
Yeah.
I like the other aspects of conventions, the toys, the media, the cosplay, and things like that. But art and artists have always been, the ones closest to my heart. And so I'd always been toying with the idea of what if you just did a small art only focused show.
Mm-hmm.
And that always had been percolating in the back of my mind. And I've been going to Como now probably close to 30 years.
Wow.
As you'll get to see, it's a pretty amazing location. And in 2016, I bought a small apartment there on the lake, only 800 square feet, but it's on the lake.
No complaints.
That's nice. So I was just out one day going around, and the Sheraton Hotel in Chernobyl advertises convention space. And I figured, what the hell? I'll check it out. It was not great. It has its purpose, but it didn't fit for what I wanted. And so I thanked the people for showing me around and told them what I was really looking for. And they said, well, have you ever checked out the Villa Erba, which is where we're at now? And I'm like, no, I have no idea where the Villa Erba is or what it is. And they go, oh, well, that's easy. It's right across the street from us. So just, within a quarter mile. And so I walked over there. You walk into these grounds that are, I can't estimate how many acres, probably 10 acres of grounds that they have there. It was an old, villa for the very, very, very wealthy people right on the lake. And what they've done is they've converted the ancient villa into kind of a reception area where you can have parties, weddings, things like that. And then right next to it was a little modern convention center, slightly different than the ones we're used to, because rather than one huge room like you see at most conventions, it's broken down into, I think there's 11 small rooms. So you have artists set up in each of the 11 rooms that you can kind of go through like a small maze.
I love it.
So I walked in and saw it, and it was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was hoping for. So I called up Arno and said, fly down from Paris, check it out. He flew down from Paris. As I recall, it was fairly overcast, and it was like, yeah, this is really nice. This is really nice. And then the sun came out. And in Como, depending on, the sun, afternoon, morning, whatever, it has a totally different color scheme. And so when the sun came out, he's like, oh my God, yes, I'm in. And so we did our first one, I believe it was 2018, second in 2019, third got aborted, as did the rest of the world.
Yeah.
In 2020, 21. And then we came back in 22 and 23. Then this coming up, gosh, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. It's like almost here. I'm so excited.
Our 5th edition.
Fantastic. Well, it's, 30 years in Como, it sounds like it was very serendipitous. It all kind of came together and made this like magical moment. So I love it. When I was looking up the villa too, I was like, oh, I've seen this before. And then I realized it was in Ocean's 11, I think, was filmed there. And then I think there's some music videos as well that were filmed there too. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, one thing that Como has, just the lake itself, is it's known for the villas.
Right.
I wasn't familiar with Villa Arba before visiting the Sheraton, but there's the Villa Balbinello up in Leno, which is where in Casino Royale, when James Bond gets beat up and recovers, he's recovering on the grounds at the Villa Balbinello.
I love it.
It's also the place that Padme first kissed Anakin.
Okay, okay, yeah. It's already on my list. That one, I can't help it. I was like,
just beware, it's closed on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Okay, good to know. I'm gonna make a mental note on that one.
And accordingly, and then there's a number of others. There's the Villa Carlotta, which is botanical gardens. So it'll be a little after its prime in May, but in April, it's just an explosion of color. It's just, as you go through, it's got, things to look at that are man-made, tons of things to look at that aren't. The Alps, the lake, just everything there. And then, you top it off with Italian architecture and, best of all, Italian food.
And it's magic. It's complete magic. It's such a picturesque, but it's like something out of a movie, the setting. So it's so cool to be like, oh, comics and, this incredible setting. I was going to ask too, so when it comes to planning the festival, do you guys start like right after this show's done, or are you guys able to have a little reprieve? Like, how long does it take to plan one of these shows?
A long time. We're already working on 2025.
Nice.
One of the things that we started out with is, it's just bringing the artists in. And what we're trying to do is develop new things. We're going to try a couple panels this year to see how those play out. The idea being that will be more mainstay in future things. We're playing with the ideas of little, for lack of a better term, swag.
Right.
Pins, bags, stuff like that, which obviously we'll improve on as we go. Our main type of swag is the portfolio.
Right, because you have some limited edition prints that are for ticket buyers. Is that correct?
Or people that buy the 2 or the 3 day get a free copy, so long as they do it far enough in advance. I mean, the cut a couple weeks ago, but we print them pretty much to order. I think we do about 50 copies over what we need, so it's not a very commonplace thing. And what it is it's we try to get between 20, 25 never before published pieces from the artists that are in attendance.
Wow.
The first couple years, it was in the normal kind of cardboard sleeve, the envelope type thing. Last year, Arno found a printer that could do it in a formal box. So it's a magnetic box that opens up. And then you've got the prints. The artists have agreed to sign the prints for free. Wow. So, one of the things that people like to do is get the portfolio and then walk around and get all the prints signed by all the different artists, which is, kind of like their scavenger hunt.
No, I'm still a physical buyer of like books, art, and media. So I'm such a nerd about that kind of stuff. So like the fact that it has like a magnetic box, I'm like, oh, I love it. So each year, how do you choose your artists? Because there's so many, oh my God, to choose from. The talents in the field is so crazy right now.
For the most part, there are a couple that we bring in, but most of them apply to us to come. And, because last year we kind of overdid it on artists. There are a number of reps that came in and said, I want to bring my stable with me. And I think last year we ended up with about 113 artists, contrasted with about 400 paid attendees.
Wow.
So the ratio is as good as you're ever going to get.
Yeah.
But it ended up being too many, because one of the things that happened last year is there were a couple artists that didn't make their money back. And so we've cut it back to about between 70 and 80 this year. The goal being we want to have the ratio good enough that all the attendees can have FaceTime with, a number of the artists. But similarly, we want all the artists to do well.
Right.
So that they can, that they want to come back. So it's, so between the people that Arno and I want to see, between those that we think will be good draws, those are the ones that get invited. But most of the people are either coming in on their own or through groups like Comic Sketch Art Europe, Essential Sequential, some of the bigger reps out there.
Love it. So yeah, there's a balance because you have to look at what's trending, who might be a draw, and then also personal taste and like, oh my God. So I love that. Is there anyone this year that you're particularly excited to see?
Frank Whiteley is right up there. I've met John Romita Jr. before, great guy. So it'll be nice to catch up with him again. Bill Sienkiewicz is he's been to a couple of our shows, but he designed our new logo.
It's gorgeous. I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, it was funny because when my partner suggested we look at a new logo, I kind of liked our old one. And then Bill did this one, and I like the old one less. I think that Bill's, I still like all three iterations of our logo, but Bill knocked it out of the park.
It's Bill Sienkiewicz, so you're like, well, to
me, it's a little avant-garde, which helps because our show's a little different.
Yeah.
I don't know if this makes sense, but because it is, it's primarily letters, but it still screams Bill.
Yeah.
The design, you look at that and go, was that designed by Bill Sienkiewicz? Even without knowing it, because it's just got that flavor to it, and he just knocked it out of the park. So it's going to be really cool to see him at the show and see the reaction from the fans to the guy that designed it. And I think it's going to be just uniform. We all get on our knees and bow to him.
We'll just have like a procession and then we'll just line up. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm great.
We'll get to see Bill blush too. So.
Oh, that's gonna be the best. Oh my God. I'm so nerding out right now. I love it. Okay, speaking of nerding out, you said you're an art collector. So I have to ask, if you're able to share, what are some of your favorite pieces that you have in your art collection?
A lot of them have gone to other owners.
Okay.
Over the years. One of the, when I was much younger, the thing that I liked was either the monster stuff.
Bernie is the first thing that comes to mind.
I collected a lot of Vampirella, a lot of the Frankenstein black and white, the Marvel black and white magazines, a lot of the Filipino artists.
Yeah.
So I had, those. Right now, I'd say that, I own Rima #1 by Nestor Redondo. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or if your audience is.
Yeah.
But, oh my God, is his artwork beautiful? So it's definitely worth picking up. He was also known for doing an adaptation of the Bible with Joe Kubert, which again was great. I had at one point, I think 13 Jose Gonzalez Vampirella stories down in. So, a lot of that. Had I collected superhero art when I was 15 years old, I probably would be having a much bigger villa on Lake Como. But sadly, I didn't. But, still, you buy what you love.
Yes.
And you can't go wrong.
No, I completely agree.
And kind of going back to the show, one of the things that's been really cool for me is, I know a lot of the American artists. Right. And through the show and through other things, I've had a chance to meet a number of the European and Asian artists, and actually Australian artists as well. And that for me has probably been the coolest thing about the show, is the people that I've got to meet and get to know. Because the European, in particular, comics industry is just amazing. They've got a different philosophy. They're much more of the one, they'll do one album a year as opposed to the 12 floppies that then get collected into a trade paperback that we do.
Right.
And so just to see, kind of the European mindset where comics are treated much more like real literature. It's kind of like jazz. Jazz over here for a while was kind of the, the bastardized music form. Over there, it was revered.
Right.
And comics are revered over there. And it's just going into a comic store there and seeing the variety, going from the coolest thing for that little kid that's just learning to read all the way up to, stuff you wouldn't want your mother to know you're reading.
I have a couple heavy metal different. I was collecting my Luis Rojo books when I was younger, not telling my mom, so I understand these things.
Well, you'll get, bring a couple of them. He'll sign them for you. He's going to be there with his son, so.
I'm so excited about that. No, and I love, because I went to Paris in 2019, and the comic book, they have a whole street and it's dedicated, and they're all specialty shops. Like if you're looking for Tintin, there's a whole Tintin store. If you're looking for older comics, newer comics, local, like it was just like a paradise, because here it's a little bit more, comics, but then it's also a gaming store. It's like they try to mix multiple things in there and fandoms just to try to draw people, but in Paris it's like, no, you have this store as a specialty to this store, and I really love that.
Yeah, so the two comments on that is, number one, this street you're talking about is Rue Dante.
Yes.
And that's where Arno, I think he and his partners have 3 stores on that street. And there are many, many others that aren't his. But the first time I went to Paris, I wanted to find a comic book store.
Yes.
I couldn't find one. The best I could find was a Fnac, which is their, department store. And they had some nice albums there. But I was disappointed. And so then I went back and pretty much gave up the quest of finding the comic shop, and was walking around the Saint Germain area and found a comic book store. And then turned around and found another one. And turned around and found another one. It was just like, oh my God, you find a street of just comic books and they're all different. And, at that point, there was actually an art dealer that had a comic art shop on that street, which is no longer there. But it's surprising. There was another street that I found in Paris where it was all Japanese restaurants.
Wow.
Different Japanese restaurants lined up next to each other for the whole city block. And so it's very different from us. But, for us comic collectors, Rue Dante is paradise.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I still have several of my books that I got from there that I'm just like obsessed with. And then Oh my God, for the future of the convention or festival, what is an artist that you would love to, are there any artists that you would love to have there one day?
Um, we would, this would be both Arno and I would like to have more Japanese artists.
Love it.
That's one of the things that trying to make a concerted effort. We don't have the connections, but we're working on that. For me personally, the European artist I'd like to meet would be Bilal.
Mm.
I mean, I just love the style of that. And from US, Frank Brunner, who's my all-time favorite artist. You know, so we've reached out to him a couple times. I'm not sure he's up to traveling.
Right.
Just I don't think he likes to travel, not for any other reason. But I always ask. Who knows? But that would be one because Howard the Duck was right when I was in my subversive teens. So
Yes.
it I remember those very, very fondly, and his Doctor Strange and just all his work. I just love it. And he actually was the artist from whom I bought my first piece of original.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, it has to be. We have to make it happen. It doesn't hurt to ask. You never know.
Right.
So for the future, what do you hope the future looks like going forward for the Lake Como Comic Festival? Are you looking for growth? Are you looking for maintaining or anything like that, or maybe a bigger venue?
No. I mean, one of the things that Arno and I agree on is we don't want the show to grow into, as you said, a San Diego.
Right.
We're going to cap ticket sales at 1,000. Right now it's probably going to be 450, 500 this year would be my guess. So we still have a little room to grow there. When you come to the show, you'll see why we don't want to go to another venue.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to explain how perfect this venue is, but the Friday night is, the reception on the lake, fully catered, just mind blowing. And then the next 2 days, you get to wander around, talking to the artists that you want, watching them create. One of the things that we developed way back when is we put chairs on both sides of the table.
Wow. Okay.
And it seems like a natural when you think about it, but I had never seen it before. And the idea is I'm used to going and talking to my artist friends where we're standing up as the fans and they're seated. And so they're always kind of looking up at it, which prevents them from being able to draw. And so when we put the fan at the same level as the artist, they could be sitting there looking like they're at the table and continue to draw and chat with you. And both the fans and the artists love that.
Well, it's more immersive that way. You actually feel like, oh my God, I'm here at the table with, and then you're watching them create and talking to them. It's great.
Yeah, because, the bigger shows tend to develop into, give me your book, let me sign it, next.
Your number. Yeah, you feel like a number.
So it's just, you just flip through and there's not many guys that could take those few seconds and make you feel special. I think Stan was pretty much the one that I remember. I mean, you get 15 seconds with Stan Lee and you thought, oh my God, you're the rest of the day. But for the most part, it was more of, like you said, just go in, go out, go in, go out. You get a chance to say hi, they say hi. And that's the extent of it. Where here, not only at the show, because of the ratio of fans to the artists, you get a chance to talk with many of them. But Chernobyl, where the venue is located, is a really small town on Lake Como. And so you tend to see a lot of the people, both fans and guests, around town having dinner, having a drink, doing whatever. And so it really does become a chance to talk to these guys and talk to those that are similar minded, other fans that you've met. There's a couple guys that I know that have come to the show every year. I didn't know them before, but we've gotten to be really good friends since, which is quite nice.
Well, I love the connection because there is on the bigger conventions, there is a disconnect. You do there on one part, you feel like a number. You have to bring in books and do it quickly. You kind of pile it in. Hi, love your art. Does it think so much? And then you're out because there's just this enormous line. There's all these people. That's what I've missed from conventions too, is that being able to sit, and you didn't really have that kind of sit down moment, being able to connect with them for a few minutes. Those memories to me when I was younger and attending comic books, traditional comic book shows, those were always my favorite when I could sit down and be like, oh my God, I love this issue. I love this book, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and not to get, I'm not dissing the bigger shows. San Diego is still my favorite non-Como show out there. I haven't missed a day in San Diego since 1994.
Wow.
And I love that show, but it's definitely one where you can't really plan and get a lot of plan time with somebody.
Right.
I usually tell people when they say, do you want to go to dinner? It's like, show up at my booth at 7:00 and we'll know who's going and where we're going at that point in time, because you never know who you're going to run into.
Exactly.
San Diego, you just run into people. It's like, I didn't know you were going to be here. Oh my God, let's try to do something. And so San Diego is a much more, let's just deal with it at it. Go with the flow show.
Right.
Como, you have a little more time to sit down, relax, chat, have some quality time.
Oh yeah, it's a much different experience, but that's what's cool about, because I love being able to have, as a comic nerd, I love having different experiences of being a part of the comic book festivals and conventions and things. Because again, like you said, you never know who you're going to meet, never know who you're going to sit down and talk with, and just express like, oh my God, I grew up reading your stuff, those kinds of things. It's the best part.
Well, I can't understate this enough, especially for you, when you get there and get a chance to see all these artists that you never heard of before.
Oh, love it.
The amount of talent in our industry is mind-boggling. It really is. To sit back and, watch somebody take a blank piece of paper.
Yeah.
And then just create
worlds.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It makes me jealous. So.
Oh, no, I love all of that. No, and I'm excited about being a part of this. This is going to be so cool. I was going to say too, I have to nerd out for another second here. So for Stan Lee, for his 94th birthday, I was able to paint and organize a big mural. I got some artists together and we painted live for his birthday when he was here in Dallas. And so that was a really cool moment. And then Stan Lee makes you feel like the only person in the room. He had that unique ability when you met him where you're like, oh my God, you and him are literally the only people here. And it's great. It's a great energy. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember one year I guess it was his last appearance at Big Wow. Mm-hmm. He was just there for one day. And so he had to leave before the show was over. So he had to walk through the crowd. And so he's walking through the crowd, just kind of going. And then you hear this just organically, Stan. Everybody in the place walking out started saying Stan, and it just got louder and louder. And then you could just kind of see him where he heard it. And then, he turns the Stan Lee persona on, where it's just charisma everywhere. To me, that's still one of the most amazing things, just because it wasn't planned and it was just the fans were showing their respect.
Right.
And you could see that Stan loved it. It was just perfect.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. I could talk about Stan all day. So for what I'll say, so what do you want the attendees to walk away with? What would the experience you would like them to have with the Lake Como Art Festival?
Memories.
Great memories.
You can get commissions and art from various outlets nowadays. The reps, the dealers, but you don't get a chance to get them as concentrated with the number of artists that you see there, and two, the actual time with them. So, I mentioned, the first piece of art I bought was from Frank Bronner. Mm-hmm. And, I was a young kid, and he had just had a book, one of the Star Reach books, I think it was 3, come out. And he spent a lot of time with me pointing out the printer errors to make sure that I would get the perfect copy.
Right.
And it was just, to me, I remember that to this day. I mean, it was 50 years ago, but it's one of the reasons I like his art so much is because he was so great to me the first time we met.
Yeah.
And, that stuck with me for 50 years. And I hope that everyone that comes to Como has a similar experience with an artist that they really like, because it'll stick with them for another 50 years.
Exactly. And that's how it grows. I love that.
Yep.
I love that. And then is there anything else you want to mention about this year's show?
Other than have fun, and for those of you that have been, hopefully we'll see you for many, many editions in the future. For those of you that are the rookies showing up the first time, looking at you, Christy, hopefully you have the experience that most of us have had.
Oh, I can't wait. I know I am. I'm going to come in there, Padawan, leave a Jedi. How's that?
Yeah. You got to visit Bob Vanello for sure.
I love it.
Is strong there.
This is great. So Steve, thank you so much for sitting and talking to me for a little bit. Where can we find more information about the festival, and where can I direct everyone for you?
Our website is lccaf.com.
Love it.
Obviously the abbreviation for Lake Como Comic Art Festival.com. We also have a presence on Instagram and Facebook, and rumor we also have something on Twitter or X or whatever it is, but I'm not one of the users, so I'm not the guy to talk about for that one. But Facebook, Instagram, but the website is probably the first place I'd go. And then you get a chance to see what the Villa Arba looks like.
Oh yeah.
Pictures on the website, and it's not like your normal convention center.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you so much for sitting down today. And I will, oh my God, I'm going to see you, a little less than 2 weeks.
And I'll see you there.
I'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Bye.
Bye.